All right, we're gonna get started. It is 6:30. It is Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. Committee of the whole meeting on the budget, and we are in the council chambers. Next item on the agenda is roll call. Clerk?
Mr. Russell is excused. Mr. Kaler?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Present.
Ms. Furmanek?
Here.
Mr. Lupton?
Here.
Mr. Rick is excused. Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Spotke?
Here.
Mayor Hess?
Here.
6 out of 8. Sorry, out of 9.
7:09.
7 out of 9. Sorry. Got it.
Public comment period. Anybody on the phone or the public comment? Last call for public comment. We'll move on to update overall 2024 budget and proposed 2023 tax levy. Kathy?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Haas. Starting with the back end, the last page of the overview, looking at a reduction in the total city tax levy of $4,485. And basically that results in a 2.5% tax rate increase. Couple things highlighting quickly. This would be a very different budget if we didn't have the supplemental shared revenue coming from the state and the additional transportation aids. In looking at it, after just consulting with Ellers, Ryan Riley, I made a determination it made more sense to hold off on the 2023 borrowing into early next year. And with having the new finance director starting in January, that actually makes, it's a good transition point. The debt service levy goes down $50-some thousand for the city. The first thing we had to do was backfilling almost $313,000 in American Rescue Plan Act one-time revenues. And I'll go through those pages as we go through. Clearly, from a fiscal standpoint, filling a 23rd police officer or recreating the fire administrative battalion chief are not fiscally sustainable. If you hired somebody this year for 2024, you'd be laying them off in 2025. And the philosophy of this council previously has been you don't want to have herky-jerky in terms of staffing. I spent considerable time going through the street department and trying to get a better handle on what happened in 2022 as far as the impacts of inflation, and that's had a dramatic impact on the street department in terms of their overall budget, and I have a lot more detail in there in terms of where we're at. In terms of snow and ice control, if we have a crappy December, that could cost you another $30,000 or more based on the past history. Fingers crossed for this December. Moving forward in terms of the tax base for the city, our net new construction was almost 2%. So we have really good fast growth occurring in the city. Unfortunately, our assessment ratio is now at below 65%. So it's pretty critical to have the reassessment as of January 1st, 2024. And depending on what happens in the market, you may need to have reassessments on a more frequent basis than you had. I mean, we went from 2000 to 2016 without a revaluation. So now you're having to do it again, and it's probably going to be every 5 to 7 years, unfortunately, depending on what happens in the market. The impact of that assessment ratio going down is that our tax base that's actually used for the tax bills goes down. So,
Kathy, I have a question. How
Yeah.
long does an assessment take roughly? I mean, how long will it take him to go through and have some idea of what kind of an impact that has on us down the road?
well, last year, or the last reassessment in 2016 took until about October, so you didn't. And unfortunately, one of the things that I guess Kit we didn't ask and maybe he didn't communicate, he basically took an estimate of the fair market value. Because that has to be turned in by mid-June to the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. And then you had millions of dollars of adjustments on commercial properties that occurred and were adjusted in for 1/1/27, or 1/1/2017. So that's why you had really dramatic shifts between the commercial property and especially the TIDs. So, highlighting basically what we're looking at in terms of state aids, we're picking up almost $750,000 in new state aid. Some of it's tied to supplemental, and some of it's not eligible. For example, library, enrichment, aquatic center are not eligible for supplemental shared revenue. I have a workshop later this week that hopefully will give me some additional confirmation on the approach that I've taken. We did have to backfill in terms of the police department about $164,000 in supplemental shared revenue went into the 2023 budget. So that's a starting point. There is a page that has kind of where I've highlighted what's eligible, not eligible. I'm still working on, I need a couple more days of thought here, but I'm thinking information technology is one area that also could be shifted around and to police, fire, and streets to be eligible. We did move workers' compensation from the insurance and retirement sick leave budget to the department, so we have consistency across the board. Because we'd previously been doing allocations for fire department, transit, and utility. But this year for 2024 includes police and streets. I did have a page that summarizes what a fire battalion chief, you're looking at almost $120,000, and a police officer with individual health insurance is pushing over $100,000. So that's why it's not fiscally possible. Highlighting the last thing in terms of what our state levy limit is, the max that we could do for operations is $45,945. That's what I've done. And I did have a list of some changes, and I am proposing that the remaining $45,000 in federal ARPA money that was tied to potentially hiring a city administrator for 2023 be allocated to the aquatic center. First off, to $16,000 to pay for the repairs this year, and then $30,000 for next year rather than using a general fund offset. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Kathy and Dan, put a lot of money into repairing the pool last year. Now Kathy's saying this 45 will cover what you're proposing or what we need. The ARPA money, is that, you comfortable with that? Question for Dan, I guess.
The money that she's putting in as an offset, the repairs are all, knock on wood, they're all completed. So this isn't for repairs, it's for offset.
In other words, for operating costs.
Correct.
So
Okay.
we're losing money every year that the pool is.
Correct.
Yeah, if you go to the aquatic center budget, it's costing almost $200,000 $180,000 to operate, and you're getting $90,000 in solid revenue, so.
Okay.
And you're comfortable with that, Dan? I mean, you're gonna make
Yeah, we
it-
try, like I
Okay.
said, this last year, we closed the pool down on Mondays, and, anytime it rains, send our staff home.
Yeah.
There is a deficit there. I think the other part would be to look to adjust how we view the aquatic center budget.
Okay.
Maybe what we have budgeted for it is not sufficient, so we keep coming up with a deficit because we don't adjust it.
Well, we'll need to know that now for the budget, will we not?
I think that's what we're discussing.
Okay, all right.
Well,
And,
the
staffing for lifeguards, that's doing okay?
The dilemma is, if you have a $30,000 operating deficit, and you can only increase the tax levy $45,000, that's what your problem is. $45,000 is for everything within the city, so
And I think that that's good for people to know that, because I certainly don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. The Biermans, it was wonderful for them to donate that, but now when it comes to operating it, I mean, this is ongoing costs that the city has to come up with somehow, and to just say, we just pull it out of a hat is unrealistic. So, there's going to come a point where the community is going to have to take a serious look at this and say, what is a legitimate service, what is a nice amenity, and what can we afford to justify, and what are we going to have to eliminate, because we can't continue doing it this way.
That's why we have a new grant policy.
There is a positive in terms of where we're at. The fixing the leaks basically resulted in a $25,000 reduction in the usage of water and WPS charges. So basically, there is a tremendous savings in that, but you need 100, in terms of staffing, you're spending basically spending over $100,000 for staffing of the aquatic center. So it's a very different operation than what you had previously.
And we draw 15+ thousand people to our community each year. Gives people a place to go safely.
Well, I guess we're going to have to work to boost that number.
We do.
I mean, I
We do.
recognize you've increased the fees, and that's good.
I'm about to say, how much are the fees now?
$5 day pass. We bumped everything up $1.
Okay. How much are we, a few different questions within this, so. How many lifeguards do we have currently on staff?
Right now, none, because it's closed. I mean,
How many did we have last year?
17, 18,
And
something like that.
How many lifeguards were on duty each
We have
day?
to, we have to, by state statute, have 7. We have to have an approved lifeguard plan, we have to have 7. But when we do that, we always have at least 8 or 9, because we rotate, they have to rotate out.
Okay.
And we bump the cost, we bump the cost up, our rates that we pay our lifeguards, because the year before we had 2 of them going into the month of May, and MAPS increased their wages by $2, so if we didn't match them, we would never get anybody.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. I'm just trying to get a bigger picture here of, okay, so we're spending $100,000 on all these lifeguards, and I get state regulations, all that, so that's fine, but then we're only paying, or asking people to pay $5 to come in. Not
So-
saying that that's not gonna,
Yeah, so we try and keep a pretty close eye on the surrounding communities and what they charge and their rates as well. We had previously lost some lifeguards to other communities, so for us, we're just trying to, I guess for lack of better terms, keep up with the Joneses. If we charge, there is a point of diminishing return. It would be nice if we could tell everybody it's $10 for a day pass, and everybody would pay it, and we would be full every day, and the weather would be sunny, and we wouldn't have any rain, and we wouldn't have leaks. But the reality of everybody goes through this. Wausau goes through it, Weston goes through it, Rothschild goes through it. You can go right on down the list. It's an amenity that the community wanted. We had it paid for, $4 million from the Bierman Foundation, and we're going to run it to the best of our ability. It's not the easiest thing in the world to predict. If we put a roof over it, we probably could.
the community wanted it, but the community wanted it for free too.
And they got it, well, with the exception of now, I mean, it was paid for, otherwise we wouldn't have one. We still wouldn't have one.
Still costs, I'm not arguing with having it, I'm not. I'm just pointing out for the public that it does cost money. This is not,
Absolutely.
you know,
Last comment might be that I assume that you're anticipating being open in the maximum amount of days. There were some issues last year with repairs and things that, you're anticipating being open in the maximum amount of time without repairs right now?
Yep, we'll
Okay.
open as soon as we can, and most of that is our staffing availability. When
Okay.
the lifeguards are done with college and/or high school, when we have enough, we will open.
But you got a pretty good recruitment program going. You're fairly confident you'll make your staff goals?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the hard work.
No different than the utilities, the chemicals that they use, the electricity they use as far as, or gas as far as heating and everything has gone up. So it's hard to estimate some of that, and hopefully with more of a steady rate on some of these things, we'll get a better handle as far as projecting. Is that safe to say?
And that'll
Very
be my
much.
main question tonight, how much we're allowing for, inflation for this 2024 budget.
The overall budget, I think does include inflation, and I think it's reasonable numbers. As I went back through the street department several times over the last 3 months, and I think those are reasonable numbers, although the second the price of fuel drops, that's a tremendous positive when we buy the bulk fuel.
Would a good indication be how much inflation was this year and project that for next year, the same percentage across the board for materials and for labor and for fuel? Is that essentially what you did, Kathy, or?
I went back and forth, and I got, Streets Dustin provided input. The budget's been adjusted based on what is happening right now.
And then with that inflation included, we're still looking at a 2.5% increase. Is that essentially where we are?
The tax levy, the overall tax levy is going down. However, because our assessed value, which is used to do the tax rate calculation, has gone down. Basically, it's, you're looking at a 2.5% tax rate increase, which
Right, right.
translates to a $20 per $50,000 property.
Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised at that. I thought it'd be higher.
I mean,
If that's in fact the figure.
Make it lower too yet.
Yeah, we're,
I mean, with the revaluation, you'll be in better the city will be in better position on a tax rate related to debt service next year for 2025.
ready to move on, I think.
All right, any other discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll move on to consideration of general fund tax levy 2024 operational budget requests. Kathy, did you want to go through it page by page? How did you want to?
We can quickly, if you want to go through quickly, we can do that, and departments can add their input. Pages 1 and 2 are the revenues. We picked up a lot of revenue, as I said. Without the supplemental shared revenue, it would be a very, very different budget, very challenging. Many departments are pretty much flat, like Common Council, which is page 3. Municipal Court, slight increase there. Municipal Court, I guess, on a revenue side, this has been a record-breaking 2023, and fingers crossed that that continues in the future. We're getting the benefit of the state collection system, and that's doing very well. City Attorney's budget is a minor, or in a slight increase. Mayor is a 0 increase.
I guess if we could stop there. If I could ask for the office supplies to increase $100 to $300 from the 200, and then I'd be willing to give up my mileage, the mileage of the 200, if that's possible.
I would make that motion for you.
I will second.
So we have a motion and a second to increase the office supply budget to 300 and take out the mileage of the $200. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
After the mayor, we have the city administrator, public works director, and Rod, you wanna?
This position is being funded by several different areas, the well, sewer and water and the TIDS. And normally, the city administrator was partially funded by both of those, correct, Kathy?
Yeah.
So I guess what we had talked about previously as far as the combined position, city administrator, public works director, and engineer, how she has laid out here, there's going to be a difference. I do believe what was requested last year was 102,000, and I think there's 86,000 requested for 24. So
Well, the net, if you go to the bottom, revenues slash over, under expenditures, pretty much identical overall. Personnel, human resources, since we haven't contracted out, I took the $5,000 out for possible legal assistance. Going on to page 12 is the city clerk. Yeah, there's a slight reduction, mainly because we are moving to a new software. And Lori, you're gonna start that, what, January?
Well, yes. Yeah, for the minutes and agenda, I believe it's January.
And live streaming, everything is being a much more cost-effective software.
On that 5,000 that you took out on the human resources, is that going into the outside legal budget then?
It helps balance everything else out, yeah.
Okay. I'm saying it would make sense to put it there, and then if we need to go to, Okay.
Page 12 is the clerk treasurer staff, and that's portions of 4 positions. The biggest change there is one of the employees took family health insurance instead of the health incentive program. Pages 14 and 15 are $1,000 increase related to elections. Next year is a presidential election. We could have up to 4 elections. And what we're doing on elections is averaging it over a 4-year period. Pages 16 and 17 are the finance director, city treasurer, and that includes 2 positions, basically the first 7 months out of the year. So basically,
with the step increase for the new finance director, do we have to adjust that, or are you just gonna take care of that internally? or-
there will be some savings there, actually, because I budgeted at higher
Okay,
step, and I have not had a chance to backtrack that.
okay.
But there's one thing missing from the budget that we need to add, and that, we'll cover that when I get to it. And that's on the fire department. Page 18 is IT, and I anticipate that the $20,000 increase there will be distributed between fire and police once I have that figured out entirely. Page 19 is just the normal operating assessments. The reassessment is being paid for by ARPA money that's in the capital fund. And audits going up mainly because of the lease, reporting GASB, the Government Accounting Standards Board, and next for this year, it's the for next is subscription IT, and we will need to work on that. Page 21, no change there in overcollected taxes. Page 22, with the shifting in workers' compensation, and basically I was able to adjust the retiree sick leave to the average over the last 10 years, and so we have about a $20,000 savings there. And on a positive, we did have a savings on page 24 that the state of Wisconsin's sealer contract for meats and bounds, or meats scanners and gas stations went down $2,800. So we did have a positive savings there. City maintenance, Nick, you want to add anything here? The biggest increase relates to utilities.
I'll answer any questions, I guess.
Can you remind us what the $7,000 for building and grounds improvement is for?
That's stuff, that general stuff around this building that has to get done.
Can you expound on that?
Just things that come up, like, we often have problems with the doors, just things that come up that need.
Just general maintenance.
Trimming the
need to be addressed.
shrubs. Okay, moving on to pages 27, 28 are the building inspector. And I've adjusted the revenue for 2024 based on the fact that there'll probably be less development than we've had the last record-breaking 3 years. Darren, you got anything else? Page 29 has the revenues of where we've been the last, gives you some history in terms of the revenue. Okay, moving on to pages 30 and 31. And 32 is community development, pretty much static. Anything else, Darren, you want to add? Page 33 is economic development, continuing the similar dollars for Merrill Area Development Corporation and Lincoln County Economic Development Corporation, with the TIDS coming up with 10 grand.
At this time, I'd make a motion to remove the 3,200 for the Merrill Area Development Corporation.
Second.
In my recent talks with the chairman of that, or is that what you call him, the chairman of that committee, they don't see the need for us to fund that 3,200 a year anymore. They did ask we move it into Lincoln County Economic Development, but at this point, I'm just making the motion to remove the 3,200 at this time to MADC. And I have a second on that. Any further discussion?
From my observation and the proposal we got from them, appeared to be duplication of services that our new marketing committee department are doing. So,
But that's Lincoln County Economic Development.
the same.
No,
Yeah, no,
the-
the Lincoln County Economic Development Corporation asked us for an additional, what,
12.5.
12?
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's later on in the
Got it,
discussion.
thank you.
Any further discussion on removing the 3,200 from Merrill Area Development Corporation?
I'll second it. Or you done?
Steve already did.
I'm just one. Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, Kathy.
Police budget's the next several pages.
34?
34, 35, and 36, and then the school resource officer, where the city pays 50% and the MAPS pays 50%, is the following page.
Kathy, did the capital outlay for that vehicle need to be increased to the 48,000 that we had discussed at the last meeting?
It is in there.
The printout was done
Okay.
before that, but yeah,
Okay.
I've
Maybe I
changed
got
that to
it old. Maybe I got it
48,000.
old printout.
Yeah.
per your previous committee of the whole action.
Okay.
So the extra 8,000 is in
for
there?
the truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next, page 38 is traffic control, pretty much identical to previous years. Highlighting page 39, that's basically $0 this year, and for 2024, because everything on the public fire protection is on the water bills. Next pages are fire, police, fire, pages 40, 41, and 42. And the item that is missing is, and thank you, LaDonna, basically, we should be allocating probably $10,000 annually for sealing the exterior walls of the fire department, and that will be kind of an ongoing item that we need to have every 5 years? Yeah, so if you keep plugging away, put $10,000 for sealing the walls, you'll have that the next time we need it.
Quick question, is that working for reducing humidity, Nick, or do you know?
From what I've been told, yes, Josh can maybe answer that a little bit better, but I do feel like it has made quite a big difference over there.
Okay. Okay. The only other suggestion I made in the past is possibility of ceiling fans, which would circulate the air better, bring the heat down, also reduce humidity because it keeps that, or the feel of the humidity because it keeps the air moving. So, besides, when I suggested the ceiling fans should also be considered at some point. Thank you.
So I'm looking to add $10,000 in that as I adjust everything here. Page 42 is the fire inspector, and there's actually 100% of the costs for that position are covered by the 2% dues that are received from for the city and the surrounding 3 townships that we provide service for. Josh, you got anything else to add? And the ambulance budget was accepted by the county with about a $36,000 increase. Page 45 is elected street commissioner. There's minor change for postage. Rod, you want to highlight the assistant engineer, pages 46 and 47?
Our plan is to bring somebody in at a very entry level, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 62,000. Some of that will be split between TIDS and the salary here reflects a decrease from what the original city engineer was. So, guess if there's any questions on that.
We're looking at a May 1st starting date. Page 48 is stormwater planning. That's no increase.
With note that in the next coming probably 3 to 5 years, we're going to have to do something to satisfy our phosphorus TMDL limits for discharge in the Wisconsin River. So anticipate probably in 2015 an increase with that.
Starting on page 49 and the following, probably 10, 15 pages, are street department. Dustin, you want to maybe highlight those?
Sure. Page 50 is basically just my budget, salary and office supplies. 51 is garage maintenance. This is where we had our biggest issues with utility bills the last really 2 years, but specifically in 22 or 23 here. So we've reflected what we hope will be the total there, 31,000 for that. Reduction in operating supplies. 52 is M&E, so this is where all of the parts and supplies that our mechanics purchase, and also the revenues that come in for any work that we do on other departments' equipment. One thing we did this year was we broke out the fuel separate, fuel and always lumped in with kind of all the rest of the supplies. So it'll take a year or two here to get a good handle on exactly what fuel is costing, but we're getting a lot more accurate numbers now that's broken out.
On page 54 is a chart that gives you shows you what the impact of the war in Ukraine was on fuel prices.
55 is roads. That's kind of our general budget. So blacktop patching, tree work, things like that. Just increases in supply amounts essentially due to inflation. Street cleaning, page 57. That's just operating supplies for our street sweepers. Snow and ice, page 58. That's probably the biggest wild card in our budget every year. It really is, we're a victim of the weather. I feel confident with the supplies we have going into this fall as far as salt and sand, but as Kathy alluded to, it could also go the other way too.
And if you look at page 59, it gives you a historic chart. I went back to 2013. Basically, last year was the fourth year where we had a bad December, and that has a fiscal impact. We are budgeting to the average of what the 11 years has really been, is to the dollar amount that is being budgeted.
Page 60 is stormwater maintenance. This probably saw one of the biggest increases in operating supplies in our budget simply because the cost of cast iron castings is outrageous. Concrete precast things is, it's been increasing for years, and we're just falling further and further behind. So this is just a reflection of, what we're trying to get done. Street painting, page 61, is just as it says, center line striping and crosswalks. Pretty standard. Kathy, can you explain page 62?
62 is basic street leave, and we've, as I mentioned earlier, basically allocation for workers' comp insurance for the entire street department's going there, about $26,000.
Page 63, garbage collection. With going to automated and halfway through 22, we weren't quite sure where tipping fees were going to go, but actually looking back, it's to the tune of about $20,000 a year more. We obviously expected some more tonnage just because, the increased capacity for the residents, but we've got a pretty good handle where things are going now.
Are you accounting for, we bought new trash containers and?
Yep, and the very last item on page 64 is capital outlay. We were budgeting $23,000 next year. Half of it will be paid for by garbage and half for recycling for additional carts. We are currently out.
So costs are real similar to what we had before automated? Is that where we are?
Yeah, well, there was quite a bit of shifting of salaries. Even the salaries for our full-time garbage employee, a lot of that ends up in roads and other functions. The route is done at 7 or 8 hours, so they do other functions the rest of the time. So we're allocating that. The biggest change is in recycling, though. But as I just alluded to, we will be looking to purchase additional carts next year. We don't have any spares right now. Still, homes going up and people asking for new ones, and I have to order a minimum of 300 and some, so it's going to be to the tune of $23,000. So.
And when you said recycling, that's our expense to dispose of or to move on with the recyclables has gone way up. Is that essentially the big
Yep.
cost?
So page 65 is recycling.
And that would happen regardless whether automated or not automated.
It would have, correct. Yep. In fact, it got better when we started going down to Mosinee. So 64 is recycling. Tipping fees we increased to $50,000. I talked to the manager at GFL. He was confident we'd be in a 5% to maybe 10% increase next year in tipping fees. But the reason we'll be so far over this year is that we weren't told of our tipping fee increase until our budget was passed last year. So I think we've accounted for it now. 67, weed and nuisance control. This is basically our inspections for long grass. 68, decorations and banners. That's just any seasonal work that we do with streetlights, so banners, Christmas decorations, things like that, flowers. 69, seal coating. This is our standard seal coating project every year. Prices have been fairly steady, increasing a little bit, but not taking the huge leaps that we've seen other asphalt do, but still kept it at 60,000 like we had last year. Concrete program, page 70, going very well. Got, like I said before, we got through an entire district this year with just our crew, so not using as much in concrete material as we had maybe initially thought, so we reduced those operating supplies. Page 71, resurfacing. So this will be streets that we don't necessarily do utility work on besides some stormwater work, but just re-blacktopping. Next year's project is slated to be Sale Street between 6th and 12th, and then maybe some overlays after that. 72, street lighting. This is basically the cost to run our city-owned streetlights and also maintain any that are damaged.
And as the chart on page 73 shows you, we've had a almost 20% reduction in the cost from 2011 to today using the LEDs. I mean, that was something that Dick started, and basically a major positive here.
And that's it for street department unless there's any questions.
In prior years, you published a thing for the public that basically listed the street projects. You gonna do that again?
Yep, working on the newsletter right now. That'll go out probably after or just before the first of the year.
Thank you.
Pages 74 and 75 are transit, and slight increase, or there's an increase potentially with their staffing. Adjustment, and basically at this point, my understanding is the Transit Commission is making another effort to hire part-time, so that's, we want to go in with what's going to potentially could be the worst-case scenario when we apply for the federal transit money. So it'll net out okay.
From what I understand, they were going for a fourth full-time person.
No, they changed it.
They changed it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still some unknowns there where you're going to go with staffing. On page 76 and 77 is airport cost to continue with a slight increase of $391. Aviation fuel, pages 78 and 79, has been very, very, very strong the last couple of months. And in addition, we have a, if you look at that page 78, we did pick up $15,000 for field office usage, and that is being used, if you go to page 79 in the middle of the page, moving a garage that the city received as a donation from Continental Properties. Continental Properties donated the property they had on River Street between used to be a couple mobile homes sitting there. That property's been donated to the city, and the garage has been moved to it's going to be moved to the airport for the airport manager. And we've completed the paperwork, and there should be another $46,000 of federal money coming in soon. So the airport has been very successful in obtaining money. Page 80, health officer, no change there. Enrichment Center, pages 81 and 82, and slight increase related to 3 employees with steps. And I don't know, Tammy, do you?
Yes, I just have one thing. Is this on? Okay, so I really just have one comment to make is the activity fee that public charge service that is being asked of us each year. I got this in a little late, so this chart is at the very end of the packet. So it's pretty simple math. Right now in 2022, our balance after expenses was $4,400, just a little over $4,400. And we contributed back $12,682. So 3 times the amount of our balance at the end of the year. This year, we're only at 2,042. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Kathy may have requested 15,000.
And this is one that I did change in the
Yep.
summary of changes that go to 10,000, I guess.
Oh, okay, okay. That's a little better, but still 5 times the amount that we're
Well,
bringing in.
I think you gotta come up with 10 grand, I mean,
Yeah.
or
And,
reduce staff, one of the two.
well, all I'm planting the seed in is that if you look at the balance of our fund, designated funds, you know, we're still sitting at 84,000. You know, that's a decent cushion right now. But if we continue to take, you know, 5 times plus the amount of money that we're bringing in, how many more years is that going to last? So there's grant writing that I can absolutely still do. But I think our biggest thing is keeping our fees comfortable for the bulk of the population that we serve. So I just kind of want to just draw that to everybody's attention. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, library is pages 83, 84, 85, and 86. And you approved this in July, and that was one of the biggest hits that we had because we had a backfill the 2023 ARPA plus the utility increases. Pages 87 is a summary, and then the following pages are Park and Rec. Dan, you wanna?
Before we go on, Nick, you said in the library that you were gonna meet with public service. Have you or, no? Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
Lori, I'm on virtually tonight.
Okay, go ahead.
I have contacted WCS and I'm waiting to hear from them to set up that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, let me know and I'll try to be there myself too, and
All right, I will do that.
we're just gonna try to meet with public service to figure out why we did all this stuff to help reduce the costs, and our costs actually went up for,
So all the solar panels are doing exactly what solar panels are supposed to do,
yes.
sarcastically emphasized. Thank you.
Are they? I don't know, are they?
Sarcastically emphasized, Mr.
Performing
Sabaki.
well?
Apparently not, if it's costing us more.
I mean, if it's costing us more than what just regular was, then obviously it didn't do what it was supposed to do.
Well, okay, that's good information.
The purpose, excuse me, the purpose of the solar panels originally when those were installed, we were receiving some credit, but it was not intended to be something that would cover the cost of our utilities. It was more of an educational feature, and it continues to be.
Well, it was in fact pitched as a reduction in utilities, and also when we put them on, that it channeled some water onto the roof and did damage to the roof that we had to repair for several $1,000s. So it's getting to be quite the liability, actually.
What did we learn from this?
We've learned, yeah, we've learned.
Okay, if you're ready to move on, Park and Rec starts on page 87.
Any questions?
Taking the easy route.
No, not yet. Not at all. Just gonna field questions first.
No, I'm,
And I do want to emphasize Dan is keeping his budget pretty much identical to what's budgeted, and he does an excellent job with the non-lapsing counts. And we get tremendous donations coming in for improvements at the facilities.
I'm gonna see my power installed at Normal Park yet?
See your power installed at Normal Park yet?
There was a donation made several years ago to run that power out to that first light pole across the parking lot. I hear about it every year in July, so I'm gonna hit you on the hot seat right now about it, so.
Okay, yeah, I don't know where that went or who made the donation, but sure, we'll find it.
Church Mutual Insurance Company, Mike Robin. That's how long ago it was.
Okay.
Starting on page 101 is the festival grounds. If you go to page 102 is the room tax, and very, very strong room tax coming in, and everything that the city retains goes to funding the festival grounds in the neighborhood of almost $34,000 annually.
Kathy, question for you on that room tax. I'm trying to remember, did Clyde Nelson say that there was an increase in that amount? 'Cause it says on here the last time that we had an increase was 2015, or?
The last increase was October 1st, 2015.
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Clyde said that there was an increase because it wasn't an increase in the percentage, it was an increase in just money brought in because of how many rooms were
Okay. I'm just
booked.
trying to recall.
That's my memory of it, but that's,
In 2015, it went from 4% to 6%. I mean, other communities are 8%?
Yeah, and we were on the lower end of, if I may, we were on the lower end of that spectrum, and I do believe, though, that this past year for collections was a record for our community in overnight stays, which is a good thing. That means we have a lot of people coming to visit our community.
so I think that's the increase you're looking at, LaDonna, was just the number of rooms booked.
Okay.
Keep moving on, pages 103 and 104 are the festival grounds themselves.
On 104, Kathy, on the bottom of the page, 55225-03-41000 is marketing. Merrill Festival Grounds expense, there's $1,000 in there. Could you, I mean, we have the marketing committee now and other things. Is there a reason to have that in there?
Well, if it's specific for a function, that's where it goes to the department. It's not coming out of the,
Yeah, I think that Kathy's right, that it should be moved here so they have their own budget
All right.
portion now.
Okay.
Like the park department does, or the,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Okay.
not like we can at marketing also help them with that sort of deal, but if they have something that they can just quick get out there, it wouldn't hurt them either.
Okay.
the same thing applies on the next 2 pages in terms of the Bierman building, basically marketing there is that $1,000 as well. So the ad that's gonna go into the, I don't know if your committee approved the ad.
they're still working on getting. the
Once
final
there's a
bill.
ad that goes in, it'll come out of this account.
And I'm sensing all these marketing is funneled through the marketing committee and the communications are there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then it's just appropriated to the right department as
Okay,
far as.
glad to hear that,
expenses.
glad to hear that.
Mayor Huss, what's happened with the campground
The
request
coun-
in Lincoln County?
The county granted us up to $100,000.
Is that gonna go through the city's books?
There,
Or we don't know?
We don't know 100% yet how that's going to work. Renee Krieger was gonna reach out to me and talk about that, of how expenditures are gonna be made, things like that. I believe they were gonna hold it, and then, when we finish a project, we submit a bill or something like that.
So basically, I will clarify with the county finance director, but in that case, then I'll add the 100,000 in revenues and $100,000 in expenses.
Yep.
There's very few limitations on it. It says camping and it has to be initiated by a certain date. Other than that, I think, it's at our discretion
Yeah.
for a lot of it, but when the funds are gonna be released, we don't know exactly, but, I guess I'd like to see Nick's input and, some others as to how that money's to be used, including marketing.
Well, that's supposed to go towards building the campsites that,
It says camping.
from what my understanding was, because I was at that meeting.
Sure.
It sounded like it was supposed to go towards the campsites that you and Rick
Rick
Bjorklund, yep,
yeah.
our
Yeah.
festival grounds manager have been working on the last few years, so.
Yeah, and Rick does have some pretty elaborate proposals available right now.
I submitted a,
And the
to
spirit
them.
behind it is tourism promotion.
No, I understand that. I'm just
Okay.
pointing out what I had understood from their resolution at the Lincoln County
Yeah.
Board last Tuesday.
I think now that the funds are allocated, when we get them is still in question, but there, you know, there's some good planning behind this.
when we get them and how we get them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, starting on page 108, and the next several pages after that are the cable and video funding and marketing communications.
On page 108, the last Lincoln County Economic Development Marketing, I'll make a motion to remove the 12,500.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to remove the 12,500. Any further discussion? That was discussed at marketing and forwarded, so.
Correct.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Your Honor, can I just bring up another point that was discussed at marketing this last meeting? We met with Midwest Communications to get an extended package of advertising from them, and it was made motion to bring it to council. So I'm just pointing it out here that this $48,000 line for the marketing contractor, that is more than enough to cover that contract. So just as an advisory to the council, that we'd like to go ahead and sign that contract with them for extended advertising.
Because
without
that
objection.
contract was basically $25,000, roughly. So that would more than, that 48,000 that's there would more than cover and still give the marketing team a good amount of money to do other endeavors if need be. So.
And then also on, I don't know where, with the social media contractor, we have $26,000 for that. I'm just asking the council to consider, right now, she's maxed at 20 hours. If we give her the latitude to work 25 hours, she said that she will some weeks hit that, but most weeks she will not. But she doesn't want to go over. So if, I believe that this would help. She is taking on a lot more than what she originally said she was going to, so.
That is definite.
I was going to say, and that would be covered by that
Yeah.
buffer that we
Right.
have already in there too, so.
Right.
Difference is $6,500, I think we came up with, wasn't that, LaDonna? 6,500? And that could come out of that 48 also, but that could be a marketing committee discretion.
Okay.
We could just make a motion to increase that line to 65, by $6,500. Which line is it?
Would be social media,
The 26,000.
55305-0547-557.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to increase it by $6,500.
I'll second that.
Have a motion, a second, to increase the line for the social media contractor by $6,500. Any discussion?
You're gonna remove 6,500 from the 48 above it?
Correct.
Yep,
Is that your intention, or you wanna?
yep.
Yes.
Got that, Lori?
108, well, 4 up.
And then the marketing contractor would be decreased
Yep.
by that amount.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Page 112 is community events, and basically it's a $2,000 increase for fireworks. Costs of that have gone up dramatically the last several years.
I have talked with the fireworks vendor. She may have a different option that, of something, and I also have been in contact with another person that they are going to get in contact with me, but I think if we hold it at this 16,000, we should be safe, so.
Page 113 is the outside organizations, and the only increase in that is for city band because we've been adjusting since 2020 in terms of adjusting based on their performances.
I did supply the financials for most of these, so everybody knew where we were at.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Do you have form any opinions after looking over these financials?
Some of them are pretty flush with money, I guess.
Yeah, to me, as one of the Historical Society is, in fact, very flush with money. Our budget appears to be doing fairly well, and I hate to deprive them. There's a lot of good people there, but I would be prepared to make a motion to eliminate the $7,000 in the budget for Historical Society, anticipating I may or may not get a second on it.
I'll give you a second.
Okay.
I have a motion, a second, to eliminate the funding for the Historical Society of $7,000. Further discussion?
I think they provide a valuable service to the city.
No doubt.
Yeah, I would think decreasing it would be fine. Eliminating it, I can't say I'd be on board with that. So
You'd be prepared to make an amendment to the motion?
I would make.
I'll remove my second to your motion.
So then it's be a new motion.
So you want to make a new motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to decrease their funding from $7,000 to $5,000.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to reduce the funding from $7,000 to $5,000 for the Historical Society. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries.
Your Honor, I would like to make a motion to reduce the Humane Society to $9,000. I still get very upset to think that I understand the services they provide, but it still bothers me that more money is given to them than to Haven, because I think it says a lot about a community. Do you care more about your people or your pets? And so that's the perspective I take it from. So I would like to reduce the Humane Society to 9 and leave the Haven at 10.
I will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to reduce the Humane Society budget from 15 to 9,000. Any discussion? I'm gonna ask the police chief to.
Did you also say to increase?
No.
No, okay. Something else? No.
It was literally just decreasing Haven, or decreasing Humane Society from 15 to 9.
My fear, and I want Chief Bennett to, what do we do with the animals that we collect?
We have no other solution for that. We'd have to go out of county for that if we did it. I don't know their financial picture, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what their financial picture looks like, but.
What do we do with the people? You know, that's where I come from.
They also have a multitude of funding sources versus the Humane Society does not. And also, and I hate to say it, but I think the Humane Society serves a lot more clients per year than it does the Haven, because they have a lot of people come through there, or a lot of animals come through there, which is more valuable, I agree. But I also fear that if we cut their funding, that they can say to us, we're only taking X number of animals this year. Once you meet your minimums, your maximums, we're done taking your strays.
Do they do 50-50 raffles at all?
That goes into a
That's
completely
half of it.
separate fund that goes for spay, neutering, and adopting fees, from what I was told. It does not go for their day-to-day expenses.
I mean, I guess I want to point out in terms of Haven, it is the only social service item that's funded by the city. It is normally a county function, not a local government function.
Well, I just think it says a lot about the kind of community that we are.
Go ahead.
I'm going to break my usual, excuse me, vow of silence on this. My first day as a full-time city attorney, City of Superior, February 1991, it was discovered there was a horrible incident of alleged animal abuse. Superior is about 3 times the size of this. Some people had 106 dogs in their house, all of them relatively well taken care of, however, living in horrible conditions. The city had to bear that cost while some litigation was going on. We had to board the dogs, take care of the dogs. The cost was astronomical. The publicity was horrible. But I frankly, granted, Superior's 3 times the size of this one, but the value of the Humane Society and that institution to this is I think, a valuable one. No, I will say no more, but it's something that I don't take lightly, and I've been very lucky, or thought we were very lucky to have an organization like that to fill in for something. Otherwise, we would have to find a place for these animals.
And that's my biggest fear moving forward is, what do we do? I mean, like Corey said, we're gonna have to go to other counties, gonna try beg, steal, and borrow to let them do this. I am against the motion, but
Haven was increased last year too.
Yeah.
It went from 6 to 10, so I mean, there was a value that this council saw in that, so.
right now we have a motion and a second to reduce the funding of the Humane Society from 15 to 9,000. Clerk, I'll have you call the roll, please.
All right, let's start with Ms. Vermanek.
Restate how the motion is going here.
To reduce the funding for the Humane Society from 15 till 9.
Aye. I will vote aye.
Yes, okay. Mr. Lepton?
No.
Mr. Wikes?
No.
Mr. Sabatky?
No.
Mayor Haas?
No.
Mr. Kaler?
Nope.
Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
5,
6-2.
4, 5, no. 2, 4,
2, 5.
2, 5.
2-5.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, motion fails. Any other motions?
I'd like to go to page 72.
Are we done with this page, Mark?
I'm sorry.
No.
You what?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that,
I thought we were done.
okay, yep, so, and with no other motions, everything will stay the same except for the Historical Society will be reduced from 7 to 5. I just want to clarify that before we move back, okay? So you want to go back to page 72?
Yeah, health and safety committee last night, we were talking about the old sirens and the maintenance of those old sirens to be kept in place. And is that item what's referred to on repair and maintenance permit? No? And that was
You are correct. That's on page 72. It's the last item in the category.
that's what we discussed last night.
Actually, I think that's just the general year-round maintenance for the
Yeah,
phone lines, the
correct.
radio transmitter and that stuff. The chief has indicated, if you remember, that he would try to find that $6,000, and if not, he'd come back to us.
Yeah.
So I think we're safe there.
Because right now you're looking at that, the only budgeted thing that we have in there is $500 for that particular item.
There's radio transmitters in them, and that's just for
I thought
me.
that would be brought in.
Nope. I think we're good there right now.
Yeah.
By chance, this referring to that recent incident where they went off by themselves?
Yep.
So fix that, so-
Yeah, that was brought up at last night's health and safety. So,
Thank you.
So you're good with that?
Yeah.
Mark, we'll just
Yeah,
move on.
I
Okay.
wanna make sure that was
Yep.
covered.
Okay.
Okay, I will make these changes that you've made tonight within the overall, including the shift in the reduction in the finance director. So basically, it's pretty much a balanced budget at where we're at on the general fund.
We'll have a cow before we have next council, correct?
Yep.
So we'll have another kick at this budget at that cow on the night of the council meeting.
We'll start the committee of the whole at 6.
So if you have any other cuts that anybody wants to make, we can come back on that meeting and do it.
I have one last question for Kathy, I believe. The income from the TIF and TID districts, does that go back in investment in TIF and TID, or does that go towards general fund?
No, it goes, the only amount that's actually being credited for interest income is going into the debt service fund for TID number 3, because that's a reserved fund that's sitting there.
Yeah, I'm talking about the additional tax revenue that normally would have went to school and county. Does that money be reserved for investment back into that TIF and TID, or does that go general fund, or where does that money go?
Anything within a TID, all the equalized value related to the TIDs are going to
Going
various
back.
TIDs.
Okay, thank you.
And you want me to cover that, Mayor, the TIDs?
If council pleasure, did you want us to go through that?
I mean, I can
Significant funds, yeah.
Yep, I guess, yeah, if we can just.
Well, I
run
guess
through.
I'm going to be very brief and go through this.
Oh, Rod, do you want to?
Just one comment, Alderman Kaler's remarks, it'd be nice to, if there are any more cuts, that you get them to Kathy within the next couple of days, because we're gonna have to have after that cow meeting, the council meeting, hopefully we pass the levy, so it'd be nice to have that so she could prepare it ahead of time to give you an accurate number. That'd be the only request.
I don't think we have any more cuts. I think it's just a matter of.
I don't know.
Because
I mean,
I'm going to
seen
get
cows
you
and
a,
councils for years. I sat and watched where they've made moves on different stuff. The committee has the cow right for the council. I don't think that budget was very fluid going into that cow.
In order to pass a resolution adopting the levy that night, it would be best to have it before that, is the only thing.
My biggest fear, Rod, is that we have 2 missing. I don't know what else, if they have anything to add or whatever, but I mean,
Then maybe you should have a cow the week before that.
which would be next week already.
right. We potentially could do that.
Depends on who's out of state, who's got darts.
But I mean, your preference was to have fewer meetings. And I'm sorry I was sick
Okay.
the last meeting you had. Okay, highlighting the TIDs quickly. Basically, the summary page should give you the indication. I just want to indicate that you're going to pay back the general fund undesignated, the general fund advances by a couple $100,000. That's the net impact of all the changes. I'm not in a position of calculating the tax increment at this point in time. I need the tax levies from the other taxing entities. If you go to the first page after the map, TID cash development incentives, only about $185,000 are scheduled for 2024. Starting with TID 10, Fox Point, basically costs to continue there. Basically, we're starting to repay the outstanding general fund advance.
And there's a balloon payment coming up on that.
We will be working on refinancing all of that stuff. It probably combined 2023 and 2024 capital borrowing and getting permanent financing for everything that goes in. TID 11, Rockridge Apartments in the surrounding area there, basically just cost to continue. We only have one remaining lot on Parkview Drive after this, what I anticipate he'll have done this year. And we have now completed the obligations to Rockridge Apartments for their cash development incentive. So we're basically paying debt service down and building back up here. TID 12, Weinbrenner area, basically just cost to continue. TID 13, the industrial park, we have now marketing that through a real estate broker, so basically, fingers crossed on where we go with that. TID 14, the car wash, generating tax increment, is starting to repay back the general fund advance. And I'm sorry, I don't have page numbers because I didn't get a copy of what you have. Page TID 3, the east side, we're basically generating tax increment and paying out debt service and transferring, as Brian Riley talked about from Ellers, transferring about $200,000 into TID number 8, the west side. Moving on to the next one, TID 4, Pine Ridge Plaza area. Basically on that, we generate money in. We will be looking at permanent financing to replace the balloon payment. We do have an offer to purchase that'll be going to the redevelopment authority next Wednesday morning, and that'll be discussed in closed session. And basically about 50 grand will be transferred to TID number 9. TID 5, Highway 107 area, basically just cost to continue, and as Brian talked about, we're looking at closing that one down after April 15th, 2024. Downtown, which is TID number 6, this is cash flowing solidly and will generate about $70,000 to repay general fund advances. The only outstanding development incentive is for the Cooper insurance. TID number 7, we talked about that at the last council meeting. We will be taking a development agreement at the RDA agenda next Wednesday for the development of Spruce Street and residential development there. And
Kathy, one quick question on TID 7. Back on page 30 under development, it was talking about $100,000 from Freemark being paid off. Is that a separate amount?
I'm going to turn that over to the city administrator to talk about.
I was told that she is prepared to start repayment on that.
Okay, because then I'm looking at this where it's in TID 7, the finance, that there's like an interest CD loan for Freemark for $9,000, so that's an additional amount that the city is paying. Is that correct statement?
The city paid Community Development Fund advance and repaid that. In addition, basically, because the business did meet their criteria for 1 quarter. So basically, not the full 100,000 will be coming back. It'll be some dollar amount less than that.
Question, I said $100,000, is that the moving expense?
Yes, that's the moving
I
expense.
was told specifically that was paid back a long time ago.
No,
That was the.
I was not told the truth.
I don't know what you're,
I can go back and find it. You did not tell me the truth.
I disagree.
Huh.
I've never indicated that it's been repaid. Okay, so you have expenses and new borrowing for TID number 7. TID number 8, the west side, basically is cash flowing better. I do want to make a correction on the second page of that. The Brooks School of Dance is really not $30,000 this year. It'll be $35,000. That is being processed at this point. They have an, I guess, state approval, and the fire inspector has been in there, so that'll be paid shortly. So we're pretty well winding down on the construction for TID number 8. And then TID number 9 is the major investment in infrastructure for the community. That includes O'Day Street and South Center Avenue. And that's reflected in the capital outlay for street improvements and utility improvements. And basically, we will have money transferred in from TID number 4 to this TID. Happy to answer any questions.
So back to TID number 7. That's not been repaid. They're going to start repaying. The criterias were met the way they were.
They were not met, and that was during COVID. We had that whole, and we delayed payment on it, and When I had talked with Renee Frederick, she said they anticipate beginning repayment, so.
Okay. Just looking for clarification.
We did put it off because their numbers fluctuated with COVID, and at this point, I guess we should call them on it as far as repayment, so.
Well, yeah, if we're gonna stick 600,000 back into making it possible for them to sell their land.
Any further discussion on anything discussed here? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I got a,
Wait, who did what?
Nathan,
Nathan?
got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.